Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It's a nice little Sunday morning over here from Chicago, Illinois. Very dark and dreary outside, actually in the middle of a thunderstorm early this morning, but it sets a nice tone for this video right now because we're going to be talking about a lot of long-term type stuff as it is Sunday, so I like to focus on the more long-term analysis type-minded people, and we'll obviously cover some short-term stuff as well. In fact, we're actually seeing a few things emerge from what we spoke about over the past couple days, but as we've been saying, for the most part, lower time frames, medium time frames, mostly just sideways action. We haven't really seen like anything too crazy. We're seeing some trade ideas just emerge, just slowly but surely just get there, and of course taking a little bit of patience. But as always, I do want to be wishing you the best, and the happiest of the happiest as well. Actually, search for my words once again. Actually, just struggling a little bit in the overnight session to didn't get enough sleep myself. But you know what? Today is a very important day, so we'll waste no more time. We'll get into it right here, right now, and I'm gonna initiate that button. So boom, baby, I'll see you in the live scene, and there she is, Bitcoin on the daily. Just making sure that Twitch is going all well. Okay, good. Actually, it's a little bit of a funny thing. I completely fucked up the stream earlier. Hit the wrong button. So I apologize if you're just joining back in. We're going to get to it right here, right now. So overall let's start off with the daily right here. Overall on the daily, we're once again grinding up against that green 50 exponential moving average. I do still look at this as kind of like the gatekeeper for the medium time frames. As long as Bitcoin's held below it, we don't really have anything like crazy to be looking at. I do think that it's it's possible that we just kind of oscillate within this region right here between about 10.5 and our current low structure at around 10,000 evenish region. But I do think that this ultimately does get follow through to the upside. It does, it is getting some interest here, but the timing of this a little bit left of center. So to really get the full picture, we actually have to go down to the lower time frame. So I will be covering the lower time frames quite early here, but looking at the 4-hour right here, yes, we do have the death cross. Actually, we do have the 4-hour dildo death cross with the green 50 exponential moving average crossing the downside of the purple 200 exponential moving average right over here, which would be a certainly more bearish thing. However, the way that I look at this is actually quite is actually quite deductive in this region. I look at the white 200 simple as a much more significant impactor on price right now, and as long as we're below it, yes, pressure is on, but I do look at this as a very resilient consolidation right here, and it does look to me like it actually is going to like it actually does get breakthrough, or sorry, like it actually does get follow through to the upside and actually breaks out above this white 200 simple, and at which point we'll probably work our way up to the next sort of horizontal zone somewhere right around about 11,100ish region, right in over here. Of course, well, I suppose 10,900 would be first in line, but perhaps just on the lower time frames. Anyways, with all of that said, lower time frames right now. And let me just make sure that the comments are going well. Everyone's talking about Kramer. Jesus Christ, man. Anyways, looking at this right here, while I do think that it eventually does emerge to the upside, I'm not so convinced that it actually does it from this current posturing right here. Things still do look a little bit droopy to me in the lower time frames. As far as this rally, goes, yes, we do have higher lows, but at the end of the day, to me, it's this is all like swampy territory in the same way that this was swampy territory down here. Where Bitcoin can kind of just get stuck in that support zone, and you see a little bit of accumulation on the medium time frames, and then after some time, you just get one of these moves to the upside. And I'd be looking at the 200 simple once again to be the governor of that. So I'm not really excited about this until we actually break above. I do think that it breaks above. Of course, I don't trade my opinion. I trade technical analysis, but they're one and the same right now. And essentially, all things kind of suggesting the same thing right here. But keep in mind that as long as we're caught within this region right here, it is very possible that Bitcoin does come back down and test around the 10,000ish region. Although I would be looking for it to hold. I would look at that as an opportunity to get into a long, another long position. Right now, I'm pretty much neutral on the market. As far as my own positional trading goes, I don't really have any intention to put on positions right here unless we break above the white 200 simple or we come back down and test supports. I am slightly long on my streamer account to follow up on that, but not a huge position. In fact, I've actually taken off most of my long-term positions there, just as we kind of drifted in this sideways territory, more of like an account protection type thing, just to essentially just take profits back because there's no real reason to load up that account. It's a fucking streamer account. That's the whole point. Anyways, looking at this right here and looking at our lower time frame oscillators, we actually do see lower time frames suggesting a little bit of up right here. We see 4-hour Stoics looking like they want to cross the upside, and I believe 3-hour are already up there. Yes, indeed they are. 2 hours going to be falling through as well, and hourly going to be as well. So it's going to be up to this next 4-hour dildo close. While if we did get confirmed to the upside and we have all these guys pointed up, essentially, typically we actually do get a move in that direction. But still, I would be a little bit hesitant, even though I do think Bitcoin does break to the upside here. I'm not necessarily convinced that it happens like right now today, at this current moment in time. I think it's really going to be dependent upon the higher time frames kind of resolve themselves and what's it called? Just kind of shake people out in this region to begin with. I think it's very entirely possible that we get another another hunt to the downside first and foremost before making a legitimate attempt to get back up above this 10,550-ish pivot right here. By the same token, we do see on the 12-hour a nice we actually did regain the red 10 moving average right on over here, which actually has been a pretty damn good insight into where we are in price action. You do see that if we actually just look at nothing but the red 10 simple, you'll notice that it's actually pretty damn good at getting price action on the 12-hour, and you'll notice that we actually just regained it on that last 12-hour delta close. But right on over here when we lost it, bad. Right on over here when we gained it, good. Right over here when we lost it, bad. You get the idea, right? So again, something that I actually do put quite a bit of weight on, as this one is is kind of like a good gauge of health with regards to like the medium, like medium higher time frames, if you want to call it that. And right now we actually did regain it, and we do see 12-hour oscillators pointing to the upside as well. So yes, this is why I do think that we actually do get fall through to the upside here. Not only that, but 12-hour RSI regaining the exponential as well, and perhaps even getting out of the bearish control zone on the next tick. But that's still a long time till we can actually even confirm that. Still got 8 hours and 24 minutes and 21 seconds left to go. Oh, I also want to talk about this before I get too deep into this video, just in case if I forget to talk about it, I want someone to remind me. I'm going to be talking about some fundamental things during this video, lining them up with technicals, of course, with regards to why I think people who are looking for, Bitcoin to crumble down from here, looking at like capitulation from this region, are most likely going to be wrong, or at least I would be, or at least I would say that the statistics are greatly against you. Anyway, so looking at this as just an overall picture, it's still more sideways consolidation. Nothing's really changed from the last few weeks of what we've been saying. Bitcoin at the end of the day is in a sideways consolidation. I would say that it's more healthy than not, but it needs more time to transpire. It's not going to be resolved today. And for all the people, I actually yesterday and today I went through like all the YouTube sphere and just to like get a gauge of sentiments, and it seemed pretty evenly split. There was a lot of bears talking about Bitcoin going back down to 7,500. There's a lot of bulls talking about Bitcoin going to 15,000 today. The big point is, and what I really want to discuss here, and what I have been discussing for the past week or the past few weeks, is Bitcoin's more or less sideways. It's in a range. There's nothing like crazy happening from this posture right now. The people who are talking about major, massive moves every day, like making it like almost like an emotional FOMO type thing, that I think is just more YouTube clickbait bullshit type shit at the end of the day. Which it's fine. I understand, like you got to get your views on YouTube and whatnot. Completely understand that. But understand that, like, as a person actually consuming this content, understand that is like quite literally just for those people to get clickbait. I don't know if like they're traded themselves or if they're just marketers, but for the most part, I would say that that's going to be wrong. And we probably still have some sideways to go here. Anyways, because it is a Sunday and we do have the higher time frames closing, let's go check out the weekly. And the weekly is going to be very interesting to me right here. If we do get this weekly to close above the red 10 simple moving average, which is actually 10,532 on stamp, then I would say that this is I would say that I would be significantly more optimistic in the coming over the next 1 to 2 weeks for an actual test to the to our topside resistance once again. But as you can see right on over here on a weekly, this chart is it's actually pretty damn pretty damn stock standard. We have we basically have just one massive symmetrical triangle right here. Actually, I guess I already have the trend lines in there. But you do see this our trend line governing the lows, trend line governing the highs. And what are we doing? We're just kind of wedging ourselves into this region right here. It's actually a little bit off, and we actually can come up with an apex on this formation, right? And the apex on this formation would be in early October, late September, what does that line up with? That lines up with a pretty major event that's coming up in Bitcoin land as well, with Daddy Backed coming into this market. And Daddy Backed, I believe, gets the green light on the 23rd of September. Please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on that date, but I believe it's the 23rd of September. If not, it's like the 27th, but I'm pretty sure it's the 23rd. Anyways, more importantly, as I make sure that my other screens are safe and SAFU over there. There we go. It would kind of align with the timing of that. So understand that this formation right here, could just as easily take another like month or so. Well, maybe not a month. I would say right around this part right here, we'd become extremely likely to actually break, and that would be right around here, about 75% full. Yeah, that would be around the first or second. That would be around the second week of September, actually. So early September is when we become extremely likely to actually break this formation and fully and formally resolve it. And I would be leaning to the upside just because the former trend has been to the upside. It's always good to make the trend your friend if you can. And in this scenario right here, I would say that is the proper thing to do. Especially as long as we're kind of holding this trend line right here, governing our higher lows. Of course, we do have lower highs as well, no doubt about that. that. But combined with the higher lows, it would suggest that we're in a consolidation, not necessarily like a full-on reversal just yet, until we actually continue that trend one way or the other. In this case, I would say that the statistics are more likely to continue on to the upside rather than the downside. While we are here on the daily, I think it's important to look at our daily oscillators. We do see daily Stokes to the downside, while price action has more or less been sideways within this region. In fact, I mean, not even necessarily sideways, but we've seen this many times in Bitcoin lands where Bitcoin gets a very aggressive move to the downside, and then it gets no follow through after that. You can see you can see this exact same example right over here. And in fact, not only that, but we have rising wicks. Not that we exactly need rising wicks right here. I mean, we could come back down, like I said, to about 10,000 and be completely fine. But anywhere below, I'd give it kind of like a buffer zone. You know, while I do think that Bitcoin could go a little bit below 10,000 and still be okay, I would say anywhere below about 9,700, and there's probably going to be some, and there's probably going to be some more, some more actual damage done to price action. That's gonna present an actual price action, or sorry, an actual problem for price structure. As you can see right on over here, I would be looking for a move back down to the 9,500-ish base right on over here, and I do not think that the next test down to that region holds. I do think that the next test down to this region will actually break to the bottom. While I don't think that we actually do break this guy out to the bottom, if we did come back down around here, I would be more bearish, and I would be looking for resolution on the whole formation to the low side, and we could be targeting moves down to 8,000, 7,500, those sorts of areas, and we'll reassess if and when we do get there. But I'm not leaning towards that happening. I do think that Bitcoin just grinds its way out here and just eventually kind of floats its way upwards and onwards, but frustrating everyone along the way, taking its time as Bitcoin likes to do. And that's just, I mean, that's fucking Bitcoin, man. That's fucking Bitcoin. That's trading in general. Let everyone get emotional as Bitcoin essentially just does nothing. But in doing nothing, it's actually telling you something for the long term. So as long as Bitcoin does not break that area, I'd say the primary consideration, the primary diagnosis, I suppose you could say, from a technical analysis perspective is, more or less a healthy consolidation, just taking its time. Not only that, but if we go over here to the 2-day digital time frame, and actually I've been playing around with this a little bit. I wonder if Bali's in here right now. Bali, the actual maker of the historical volatility, or sorry, not the historical volatility. Well, he did do that one as well, but the expected moves chart with regards to historical volatility. If we look at this on a 2-day, and I found something quite interesting right here. So you'll notice two things. You'll notice first and foremost the obvious one, the expected moves chart with the with the 3 standard deviations, and we basically just wicked off the second standard deviation, got it, caught a nice bid right there, and head back up to the first, to the top side of the first standard deviation. That's all well and good. That doesn't really tell us all that much about this price action. But what this does present is that if we actually do take out the high of the last prior 2-day digital, which was 10,540, which, by the way, if you remember, that is where the red 10 symbol is on the weekly, then this would confirm continuations to me, as it would be a clear and obvious signal that we are getting picked up off this region. And by breaking the first standard deviation, that would be a change of behavior on the lower time frames in a line with actual continuation to the upside. That's essentially what we're looking at right now. But of course, this is a 2-day digital time frame, so it's going to take us time. Anyways, you also notice that there's a white moving average right here. Not just because it's white, but it could have been any color. For fuck's sake, Jesus Christ. Anyways, this is a 20 simple moving average, just very, 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 very stock standard. Nothing crazy over here. And if we pull it out, when in doubt, pull it out. You can see that the 20 simple moving average on a 2-day digital time frame has been a pretty good marker of general trend, like health of trend, kind of where we are. You do see that if we go back to the past prior bull markets, Bitcoin will come down to that white 20 simple moving average, usually hang around it during its kind of like more downside aggressive moves, as you can see right on over here. But it never really strays too far away from it, and you can see just following it through. Yes, we do lose a few times, but it never really it has like a gravitational pull towards price action, pulling it back up. In fact, buys below this region are actually historically quite good in an overall general uptrend. Of course, during a downwards market, it will act differently. It'll quite literally be the opposite. It'll be a place to sell on, essentially. But as you can see right here, these moves are actually damn good buys, and working out of these bases on the more aggressive moves. Anyways, you'll notice that in the more present times, we do see that Bitcoin has come all the way down to the 20 simple moving average. We have not broken it the whole way through. This is the first time that we've really tested it through from actually like switching up the trend, and I would say that this is more likely to hold than not. And more importantly, as long as we're within this region, that would be that is my first interpretation of this. That would also suggest that if we actually do break this, then we got some we probably do have some actual problems. But for the most part, the fact is that Bitcoin is getting picked up in this region thus far, and it is showing, it is showing support in this region, and we do see structure, surrounding this whole area to begin with. So all of those things put together would suggest that this is like, the main read on this set. We actually do get picked up off this. Going to be slow, going to be sloppy, most likely, just because it's fucking cryptocurrency land. But I would be looking for this to just, for this to kind of just grind itself out. Of course, we do see a more bullish posturing on the 2-day expected moves chart as well, where volatility is contracting here, because we do see volatility contracting. I wonder if I can bring it up on, yeah, we can bring it up right here on the daily. We do see volatility still contracting, but the bands are actually squeezing to the upside. So if this is a mean reverted indicator, meaning that it's designed to, well, essentially return to the mean and explode from there, then that would suggest that we found support right on over here, and the next explosion in volatility will likely be to the upside. Anyways, going back into or let's actually look at the daily as well. Why not look at the daily and look at this? We have a perfect posturing on this guy as well. The edge of the first standard deviation is where it's right at the edge of the 20 simple moving average on the daily, and the 20 simple moving average on the daily is completely in the middle of price action, which again is indicative that we're in a massive consolidation. As also, I forgot to mention this as well, but as also the historical volatility percentile right on over here having that drop off, that nice orderly drop off going from left to right. Anyways, going back into the charts right now, we do see that these two areas are meeting up with each other at that critical point, that critical junction that is not only confluent with those areas, but also with the red 10 simple on the weekly, which is also confluent with the 4-hour 200 simple moving average running over here, and which is also just basically this major blue box territory that I would say, as long as Bitcoin is below it, it's really difficult to get excited about any sort of like an actual breakout. And if Bitcoin could get back above it, I would, I'd actually start to target a move towards 11.9, 11.8 would be my first target, and then second target would probably be somewhere right around about 11,200, we'll call it. And then generally I'd be looking for Bitcoin to kind of float its way up to the top side of the range, just after that. But we'll have to take it one step at a time, because I always shudder from like the YouTube comments that are like, you said this was going to happen and it didn't happen within 1 hour. You're wrong. It's like, what the fuck? What the fuck, man? Good luck trading with a mindset like that, because most of the time it's going to be a lot of waiting. I'll tell you that. At least in my experience, a lot of trading is becoming a master's in having patience. Pretty much. Gotta have a lot of fucking patience, man. I mean, of course, if you don't want to have the patience, then trade the 10-minute chart. But that's that's the time when you should be looking on like an hourly schedule. It's like when you're trading like a half-hour chart, right? Anyways. Looking at this right here, lower time frame, still just kind of grind their way out. Not really too much to add. That already hasn't been said. Going over to the higher time frames, I do want to check out the 2-day as far as this is concerned. You do see a pretty god damn it, come on, get out of there. Get out of there, you fucking notification you. What are you doing on my phone? Anyways, we do see that the 2-day, we are getting we have not gotten fall through on it just yet. We need to trade above the high of the prior 2-day dildo, which again is at that same area, which to me, if we do even just, trade above it, we're likely to get that continuation. And first target's going to be, again, about 10.9, right around the 2-day 10 simple moving average right on over here. I don't think that Bitcoin would really stop there, but I do think you'd have like a short-term, pullback, I suppose you could say. But other than that, the 2-day chart not really helping out too much. I think that it is worth mentioning that the 2-day Stokes are actually pointed downs right now, which is also not only just crossing down, but also rejecting the bullish control zone. So I do want to represent that the bears do actually have some things in their in their court. Of course they always do. It's never just completely one-sided, and it's always up for subjective interpretation to begin with. But I do want to express this. So the maker of the jewel, I did not make the jewel myself. I had a hand in it, but as far as programming goes, I don't know how to program. I'm not a programmer, and I don't really intend to be. but the man who did program the jewel himself, he actually was expressing that he believes that this is a more bearish setup right here. I would push back on that. I don't really consider it as such. I consider it more neutral than anything. I don't consider a signal either which way. You can kind of interpret it multiple ways. But I do think that it was worthwhile to kind of express his opinion, because I do defer to him when it comes to analyzing the jewel. But for myself, I have a special rule never to take any sort of signals within the middle of that range. 3-day, same thing as well. In fact, the 3-day does look a little bit more nasty. If you do have access to the jewel, keep a watch on the next tick for the light blue oscillator. If we see a negative slope, then yes, I will be on the same side as the creator himself. If you're not familiar with them, it's Morphall on Discord, and I'd actually be looking for this turn down. But for right now, it's just kind of parallel with each other. Again, signals in the middle of this range right here, not necessarily not necessarily a signal that I'm looking to take. But if we do start to turn down, if we get a negative slope on the light blue oscillator, then yes, I'd probably say this is it's going to align with another test to the downside of the range at the very least. But for right now, you do see a 3-day structure. Okay, we are in the process of likely creating another higher low right on over here. As if Bitcoin can close this next 3-day dildo above the above the yellow 20-month exponential moving average, I would say that this is likely going to be a base that we work off of going forwards here. Looking at 3-day oscillators, we do see 3-day Stokes still pointed to the sky right there. In fact, they will be getting above the bearish control zone for the first time in a few weeks. If we do close this next 3-day dildo anywhere here or higher above like 10.4, which I do believe we confirm on the 20th of August. So it's not going to be today; it's going to be tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern time. That we can actually confirm that. So right now, not all that useful. Looking at 3-day RSI, do we see anything of interest here as well? Not really. I mean, it looks quite orderly. It looks like a nice consolidation between the neutral zone and the bullish control zone. Not really getting too much unique information off that one either. So really, it has to go to as far as like kind of cutting the bread right now. It actually has to go down to the lower time frames, just because this is going to be the first. This is going to be the first major area that actually has implications with change around the higher time frames right and over here. So if Bitcoin can get that 4-hour total close above the 200 simple, again 10-5-50-ish region, which lines up with not only the expected moves chart on the first day deviation, but also the 2-day 220 simple, and also the what else do we have there? Also the order box that we have right over here. Also the death cross on the 4-hour, and I'm sure there, and also the daily 50 exponential moving average. All these things kind of coming into confluence within this region, and I do look at this as the gatekeeper for that next medium term move. If we do get above there, which I do think that we do, probably sometime this week, then I'll be looking for a move up to 10.9 would be first target, probably a little bit of a small pullback there, and then work its way into like 11,200 maybe. Volume profile should agree with this, I'd imagine, as we do see volume profile having a nice, some nice interest right in this region that we're at right now, and you do see that that is pretty sparse above until we get to essentially about 10. Well, this is actually about 10.850, 10.850, 10.9, about the same thing, and then of course the next major swath of higher value nodes coming in this region around 10.3-ish region. So I'd say that those would be the that'd be like the general trajectory from that time frame perspective. Of course, when we're talking about lower time frames, you're getting your floaty and flighty behavior, but generally speaking, I would be looking for something like that if we do first and foremost confirm above this area right here. By the same token, you do see that if we were to come back down, which I actually do think it's quite possible that we have another move to the downside, maybe back down around like 10,000, 10,100. First and foremost, and then get picked up and then reverse back again, just washing people out one more time. I think that's a little bit more likely here, but I don't really have a strong, I don't really have, again, the way to trade is basically the same. I'm kind of getting lost up in my words right now, but what I'm trying to say is, hey, if we break this area right here, I'm happy to take long. If we come back down here, I'm happy to try a trade down around here as well, just because it offers up a bit, a better risk reward profile in this region right here. While it's very entirely possible that it actually does break to the upside from this region, I wouldn't be taking trades here. Just there's not really a good risk reward setup as it is. I mean, if you did want to construct something, you'd probably have to go down to a very low time frame, but an hourly is going to switch around a million times in a day. That's the problem with looking at it, and you can see that if we do want to reject off this high once again, which has been our last couple of rejections on the 16th of August and then also the 17th of August, then we'd probably come back down here and float towards the point of control on the lower time frames. But again, this is very low time frame bullshit. Keep in mind that whenever I talk about anything like 4 hour or under, this has it's like a ticking time bomb. It's like a ticking time bomb as far as analysis goes. It's like this message will self-destruct within, I don't know, like half a day to a day. It's just no longer valid after that, right? It's no longer helpful. Anyways, okay, so because it is a Sunday and I do want to talk about some more long-term analysis, let's get into some more interesting things right now. So first and foremost, I want to talk about, I've been seeing a lot of people talk about, what's it called? I've been seeing a lot of people talk about Bitcoin going to be heading back down like below 8,000 or 9,000 or 7,000, or Bitcoin heading to new capitulation lows, or back down to our prior lows, or just anywhere like significantly further down. Well, I have something to say about that, because realistically, we can go over some long-term analysis, which for the most part I've already covered, but I want to present something new right now. So I'm going to bring up the Puel multiple, which do I still have it in here? Should have it in here somewhere. Yeah, there we go. Okay, great. So this is a fundamental indicator with regards to, I believe, miners' revenue, and it's basically just like it's basically just like a moving average on the miners' revenue. I believe is the best way to explain it. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but regardless of the fact, even if I explain it wrong, let's just actually look at it, and you can see very, very easily and very, very concurrently that it does have some pretty damn good weight with kind of judging where we are on the overall general market cycles. So let's kind of match these up with what we're looking at on a price action, and you will notice very, very easily that when Bitcoin puts in these massive parabolic rallies and in blow off tops, we get the blue oscillator into this more critical zone here, and that's usually, and that's not usually, but that is when we do have these extremely nasty drop offs. And when I'm talking about extremely nasty drop off, I'm talking about Bitcoin having retracement of like, you know, literally fucking 70 to 80% on some of these guys, on all of these guys actually. In fact, we can just measure them out really, really quickly here. We see this one doing about a 77% drop down. This one right over here doing, you know, 70% drop down, but if you take it from the ultimate high to the ultimate low, like 87% drop down. I mean, that's like actual capitulation. And then we see more recently during 2018, this one coming all the way down for about 84% as well. So my point is that if you're looking for that massive capitulative move to the downside, then realistically we want to see this blue oscillator in this, you know, in this more critical zone right here. That's the only time that we've ever gotten those moves ever, like literally ever in the history of Bitcoin. For the most part, yes, we do play out some pretty nasty downside movements to the tune of like 30 to 40%, but we've done that actually in this current posturing on the market. We've actually come all the way down, I think, for like a 38% move. Yeah, about 38% from top to bottom here, 14,000 high to 9,000 low essentially. I mean, that's almost a 40% drop down. I mean, that's pretty consistent with the way that Bitcoin likes to play out these drawbacks during your general up markets. I mean, just kind of eyeballing it and measuring it out, you see this one right in over here, 23%. You see this one right in over here. This one's going to be about 38%. That's literally the exact same. We have this guy right in over here, about 32%, 33%. We have this guy right in over here. We have about 33%. This guy right in over here, we have about 37.5%. I mean, again, about the same. This one about 41%. So you get the idea, right? It's pretty damn, you know, Bitcoin has a very specific personality with the way that it likes to play out these more shakeout moves, you want to call them, on the higher time frame. So I do think that the people who are looking for this asset to come like much further down are either misleaded or they're not looking at, or I mean, obviously we're not looking at the same things, but I just don't know. I just don't really understand the reasoning of why people really think that coming from this area right here. This would only imply if Bitcoin was quite literally like changed around a market cycle. But as you can see, the times when we get a market cycle change are when the Puel multiple gets into the more critical zone right here. And we're nowhere near in this current posture. We're in fact very, very low. We're actually below the median point if you were to make one between the green and the red. The green actually being a phenomenal buy area, which we actually did bottom out on Bitcoin in December, by the way. It did accurately call the low in 2014, 2015, and also called the low in 2011 as well. So all these, you know, very, very important. And to me, we're actually a lot closer to, we're actually a lot closer to a support area than we are not. And more importantly, with the way that this oscillator has kind of been reacting, you do see that it did set in, it's been setting in a series of higher lows right here. Starting off this point, then we got this point, higher highs along the way as well. So higher lows, higher highs actually created an uptrend. And then we put in this nice move right in over here. That was a move to 14,000. And then what we want to see now is we want to see Bitcoin not make a lower low than this guy right in over here and destroy the structure. If we do that, it destroys the structure. It would look like more of a reversal as well on a lower time frame perspective. But keep in mind that if we are going to remain a little bit more macro term bullish here, which I do think that we are, then we're likely to maintain these higher lows going on forwards here. You do see in the past prior behavior of Bitcoin does, once it gets that, it does not destroy it, except for like the very, very nasty pullbacks. Like we have an example on this guy right in over here. This one right in over here having a pretty nasty drawback, I think of about 40%. Yeah, about 40% on that one right in over there. And you do see that this has a massive dropout. But keep in mind, we've already had about a 38.5% move to the downside already. And these two things are actually quite comparable to each other to begin with. Anyways, I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about this as well. If we can talk about something that I've already talked about as well, I suppose. It's this guy right in over here. Let's bring this off. Let's take these guys off as well. There we go. And we're just going to look at the 21 exponential moving average, just very, very stock standard stuff. You know that Bitcoin loves to play off fit in its upwards market, loves to sell off in its downwards markets. And as of now, we have not really tested the yellow 21 exponential moving average on the weekly, which is usually a good, like, healthy retracement for those moves and completely normal, completely natural. It's, it's all good. It's organic if you choose to use that word. But more importantly, A lot of people are saying that we have to come back down and test it. Well, realistically, we have come pretty fucking close to actually testing it. And it did come around about 8,800. And remember, everyone's got their eyes on this right now. So looking at these last few lows in this region right on over here, we really only came about a couple $100 away from grazing it. In fact, this is, if you kind of elongate this out over time, you'll notice that this is pretty much going to look like it's actually drawn it in and tested it if we do continue upwards and onwards over time. So I would say that, people who are, people are calling it just because of that fact are maybe not accounting for the more long-term picture, I suppose. Anyways, with regards to that, let's put on our drawing tools now and let's talk about this. So let's look at this dotted trend line right here that the red arrows are pointing towards. This is like the big phase, the big phase discusser. I'm just making up words now. I'm trying to come up with a cool word for it. It's a good indication of what phase of the overall market cycle, like the macro market cycle that we're in. You can see that when we're below it right in over here, great time for investors to accumulate, and whenever we approach the trend line, it's a great time for traders to be sellers. And you see that when we break above it right in over here, massive girthy green dildos to the fucking moon, literally just humongous girths of movements right there. Do one, do two, blow your top off, come back down, and where do we base upon for the next 2 to 3 years? Literally 2 to 3 years, just basing on this trend line. All you had to do for the next 2 to 3 years, from 2015 to 2017 actually, is just buy on this trend line the whole way up, and Bitcoin goes up once again, blows off its top, and then comes back down. On the way down, we actually break this trend line to the downside, and you'll notice that this price action right over here looks extremely similar to what we did in 2011 to 2013 right over here. A nice accumulation zone once again, and then more importantly, once we break above this trend line, we get the same sort of behavior with a nice parabolic explosive move to the upside, where Bitcoin essentially doubles from this $7,000 region to $14,000 right over here. So we're getting the same behavior. We're getting parabolic moves once again. We just recently got it, and the case that I'm kind of constructing right now is that usually when we see Bitcoin break above this major pivot, as far as the market phases go, we like to stay within that market phase for years at a time. And we literally just broke above, relatively speaking, we just literally broke above it. So to break below it would be the only way that I get more long-term bearish. Now, where this currently coming in around, it literally matches up, as you can see, exactly with the yellow 21 exponential moving average. Where is that currently around? At about 8,800 even. So anyone calling for a move below 8,800, I do believe is essentially calling for a massive reversal on the market, for much lower prices. And looking at our fundamental indicators and kind of conglomerating them with what we see here on the technicals, I would say that that's unlikely, because to get a major mass reversal in the market, we need to see those fundamental indicators get into those more critical zones. As you saw earlier, we do not have anywhere near that sort of momentum right now. We didn't get anywhere near those regions, and more importantly, the pullbacks that we typically do see in an overall general uptrend are usually somewhere between about 30 to 40%, which we already do have on this current run right over here. It's just been going more or less sideways after that. But as you can see, after we did have that almost 40% retracement right here, Bitcoin's essentially just been making higher lows. I mean, not only that, but if we go back into the daily, you can see that Bitcoin even has a little bit of hidden bullish divergence here between this point and this point. Looking at this low and then this low right on over here. We're creating higher lows, but Bitcoin, the RSI had lower. The RSI had lower lows, and Bitcoin price action had higher lows. So bears are using, in the overall general context of an uptrend, by the way, very important part. So Bitcoin, so bears are using more power to get less of the way. Now, whenever I'm looking at hidden versions of divergence, I don't like them all that much. Usually the more accurate term would be like continuation divergence, just telling you that it's a good pivot point to continue, the trend in the same direction essentially. And I believe that that's what we see right on over here. It's just Bitcoin, taking its time and once again, just frustrating people out of their fucking minds. But that's the point of markets, right? That's the point of markets, is to really frustrate people, because the most emotional person is the person most likely to make bad decisions, and the person most likely to make bad decisions is the person most likely to give up their money, right? Anyways, going back in over here to our fundamental indicators, I think that this is also worth mentioning as well. The Bitcoin difficulty ribbon. So this, if you're not familiar with it, it's basically talking about the impact of minor selling pressure on Bitcoin's price action. I think that to represent that in like a chart format like this is actually a little bit is actually a pretty incomplete because we do have futures and derivative products in this in this market. So miners can presumably make decisions in the future at a present date right now, which is not going to really accurately represent the actual selling pressure on Bitcoin. But as you can see, like from a longer term perspective, like just as a general thing, there is a very obvious trend here. When you see this ribbon collapse on each other, when it converges on each other, that's when Bitcoin is putting in its major lows and going through major periods of accumulation. You can see this area right over here. They converge on each other. Bitcoin puts in a nice accumulation for about a year, it looks like, or about half a year, and then boom, for the next 2 to 3 years, we're just straight to the fucking moon right over here. Then same thing during 2014, 2015. Bitcoin, or sorry, we see the ribbon converge on each other right there. Sorry, let me actually point to it right here, and then Bitcoin essentially puts in the low and accumulates for about half a year, and then right after that expands once again and off to the races, for the next 3 years to the upside. And then what do we see more presently? We see Bitcoin. We see the same exact behavior. We see the ribbon compress on each other during around our lows, and now once again it's diverging, right? It's diverging right here, even though it does look like it's kind of rejecting price action. In not that I'm really sure that you can even use it in that sense, but more importantly, it's diverging away from each other. So it's telling us that we are getting ready to expand here, even though price action did just kind of go down right there. It's not, the greater picture would, historically speaking, be a little bit more bullish just based upon that. But remember, whenever I talk about these sorts of things, we're looking at literally fucking months and months, sometimes even years of price action. Like when I talk about something like that today, this second, right now, this doesn't apply to this today, this second, right now. I'm not saying that Bitcoin's going to explode to like 20,000 from this moment right now, just straight there with no fucking stops. No, that of course, most people here, if not everyone here, knows that that's just not true. It's only for like the very impatient YouTube trolls where it's like, hey, why isn't price action 20,000 now? You said this, you said that. It's like, oh my God, holy shit. What kind of can of worms did I just open? Anyways, I did think that was appropriate to talk about that. Oh, camera froze. Sorry about that. Let me see. Maybe I can do. Hold on 1 second. I got an idea. My camera exit scammed. Not for long, you fuck. There we go. Okay, I think I got it. Just 1 second there. Okay, we're back. We're back, baby, and baking at 350 degrees Celsius, of course. Yeah. So, with regards to all of that and all of the major things that I look at, it looks to me like we're just in one massive consolidation. The same shit that I've been saying for the last 2 months. I think that the consolidation is more or less healthy. I think that the consolidation has given you multiple chances to buy along the bottom side of this support right on over here. I don't see any real major reason to be bearish for like a prolonged move to the downside, as long as we're above, especially like 97, 9800 region. I would say I'm looking at some of these comments are too fucking good, man. Please remember to hydrate. Thank you, Guy Gamer. Actually, I will right now, man. I'm pretty damn thirsty. 1 second, please. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, beautiful. All right, good for another 1,000 miles. And again, that's essentially what I'm saying. I don't really have any real major reason to be bearish on Bitcoin. Once again, to be very deliberately clear, technically speaking, it's not appropriate for myself until we actually break below 9,400. Although I do think that if Bitcoin even came back down to 9,400, that's gonna likely break to the downside. I wouldn't be bullish if we came back. I wouldn't be a buyer on this trend line the next time that we come back down here. I do think it's possible that we come back down to like maybe 10,000 or so. Give or take a few bucks, but I'd be looking for that to actually be bought back on up, and I'm happy to have that bias essentially as long as we remain above this pivot right here. So that's like what, about 90, depending upon where you put it, I'd say about like 9,900. Yeah, again, give or take a few bucks within that region. So overall, that's essentially what I'm thinking right there. Okay, cool. So let's go check out the other top two shitcoins. Or actually, before we get into that, let's look at the Bitcoin dominance chart really quick. Bitcoin dominance here. On the, let's go to a daily. I believe it has topped out. Yes, it has. Okay, finally. All right, fucking nailed it. God damn. Sorry, I don't mean to sound arrogant on that, but it does feel good. Especially after all, I'm sorry, and you'll probably notice that over the last couple of days, I've sounded maybe a little bit more arrogant. It's just because I feel a little bit of egotistical pleasure from vindictively seeing a lot of the things that I've been talking about start to come to fruition as people were giving me a lot of shit. But again, it's the internet. I can't really expect that they're not going to, right? Anyways, anyways, and probably I should be more mature on my part. Anyways, looking at this right here, yes, we do see that we do see it kind of top out exactly at the area that we spoke about, 70.5%, and I do think that this one comes back down short term, back down to about 69. Probably does bounce around 69, but ultimately I want to see this thing come down to about here, about 68%, around the 68% region. And that's at the point where I do think Bitcoin's going to likely initiate its next big run, because for now, while the dominance chart actually does come down a little bit, it would suggest that alts are going to actually get a little bit of a bid here. They're going to get some help. So I'd imagine that Cardano is probably holding on its lows right now. It's probably creating some sort of like massive low. Let me just go check on them, and that's exactly what you see. We tested 21, first passes a sell, comes back down, the red 10 symbol gets picked up. This next one's probably going to take out the 21 and work its way up towards like 530, 540 or something like that. Anyways, to go back into the Bitcoin dominance chart and see those two things line up, that's very good. And I do think that that's going to align for alts to rally a little bit here, but and we probably do bounce on the next test of this region right here at about 69%. But I do think that ultimately we actually fall down all the way to about 68%, and that's going to allow the alts to rally probably around to their red 10 simples on their weeklies over the next like month and a half, whatever that is. And then from there, I'd be massively bullish on the Bitcoin dominance chart once again. Longer term, higher term time frames, this is fucking powerful right here. Super fucking powerful. If my trading view can load, that'd be better. This is a damn good, damn strong reaction. But remember that we are seeing the measure moves from this flag formation and also some little formation right over here, more recently speaking, come to fruition. We've been monitoring this for the past year or so, and keep in mind, we monitored it for a year, literally before it played out, not because not because like it's what's the word that I'm searching for? I'm not really sure what the word that I'm searching for is, but basically, we wait for a year watching this play out, and then boom, it actually hits its target. But it takes its time, of course. So I just want to show another example of why it's important to have patience when you're looking at these higher time frames, talking about like the more long-term trend. So for now, for now, I think that we put in like a local top most likely. We trade a little bit sideways to down on this, and then longer term, we do head back upwards and onwards. Monthly is incredibly bullish, but for now, we are hitting on like a first major resistance in line with all the targets that we hit over the past year. So it's likely that we're going to play out some pullback, at least for probably like another month, maybe 2 months, something like that. But when we do see that one, head back upwards and onwards, that would be the time where I'd be looking for Bitcoin to really start to make new, like massive leaps higher, and as far as price action goes, like versus the dollar, not just on the dominance chart. Anyways, going back into Bitcoin and talking about the higher time frames, I did forget to mention this as well. I do want to talk about the higher time frames just because, well, why the fuck not here? Monthly is still looking fine to me. A lot of people are calling this like a spinning top dildo. It is not a spinning top dildo. You need to be at the top of an uptrend to be a spinning top dildo. This is obviously fucking not. To me, this is consolidation right here, and we're creating a nice little range. You can see the wicks kind of conversion on each other. That's really all that it means. Not only that, but momentum oscillators would suggest a completely different picture. Momentum oscillators are actually quite bullish here. We see monthly Stokes getting above the bearish control zone for the first time in over a year. That was where the last market cycle, essentially exploded from as far as momentum goes, coming from this region right over here for the next few years, all the way to $20,000. But remember, it's monthly. It's going to take its time. Looking at monthly RSI, we're being quite resilient around the bullish control zone. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it wouldn't throw me off too much to actually come back down and test the exponential. It would actually make me feel a lot more confident getting into a long-term position just based off that. But looking at the structure and kind of confluence with that, I don't think it necessarily makes sense to me. Because if we do take out the low of this dildo right here, then yes, I would be looking for a move probably down to like the low 8,000s, high 7,000s. But again, that's not really my disposition right now. The way that I look at this is a nice consolidation at the top side of your range. And if we're consolidating at the top side of the range, we should see something similar on the Challenger bands, which we do, as you can see right on over here. It looks like a little bit of profit taking off the top Challenger band, but that's okay. This is a bullish posturing on the Challenger bands, especially when you match them up with our momentum oscillators and also the monthly jewel as well, which did give a buy signal a few months ago, to be fair. But again, going to take its time. This to me is a pretty damn good response. And usually when you start to grind the top Challenger bands like this, it's setting up for an actual, pushing of those bands, similar to what you see during these strong trading moves during during the years of 2016 to 2018, essentially. And same thing for the downside, but you're not going to see it on this chart right here just because it's too high for time frame. Anyways, so I do want to talk about that. Higher time frames still look fine to me. They haven't really changed around. They're probably not going to change around because, well, they're literally higher time frames, so it quite literally takes time before they can even change around. The most tangible thing right now coming into today's daily and weekly close is, I suppose, going to be the red 10 simple. Do we close above or below it? essentially that 10.550-ish pivot. If we close above it, I'd be looking for, I'd be looking for continuation on the medium time frames to the to the low 11,000s, mid 11,000s, and then a little bit more higher time frame. We'll probably end up testing the top side of the range to begin with. I mean, at the end of the day, man, if you go back on over here to the to the daily on my fresh chart, you do see that after we go test resistance, we go test support. After we go test support, we go test resistance. After we go test resistance, we go test support. You see the same thing right here, 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 here. We just tested support. What's going to happen after that? Got to go find a resistance now. So, like I said, that's basically the main things on my mind. I suppose if you are looking at a daily, any sort of a daily total close below 10,000 would likely be interpreted as mega bearish. We really don't want to see any daily total close below there. But until that happens, I mean, to me, this looks like it's creating a nice little base right here. It's sloppy as fuck. It's really, really ugly. But hey, that's just the way that Bitcoin likes to play its life out. Let's quickly look at the other top two shitcoins, and then I think I'll wrap this bitch up. But looking at Mr. Buteau right here, fucking nasty, man. But actually working his way back up here and going to be testing the 200 simple, and in fact, a pretty damn good response in comparison to Bitcoin. So we are seeing the altcoins being a more emotional responder of Bitcoin, like mimicking his moves, but doing it in a more emotional way, in a more violent way, essentially. And in this case, we do see Mr. Buteau coming back up to the 200 simple. This is why yesterday, while I was looking at this chart, I'm not like too impressed by this chart. It's hard to get bearish on any of the alts when Bitcoin is still kind of neutral on the lower on the lower time frames, and higher time frames, longer term trend is still to the upside. But again, that's long term. Anyway, so we see the same thing kind of mirrored in Mr. Buteau right here. We do see the 200 simple is actually going to be acting as resistance. I actually do think that it does take it out to the upside right now. I think that this is going to end up being a trap below this region. I think a lot of people are watching this trend line right here, and while we do have a lot of measure moves lower to like 130, to 140, this is why I said I never really thought that they're going to hit. Really, the area to watch was the 180 area, which we actually did go a little bit lower. We went to 175, but that's okay. I'm cool with that. We never closed below 180, which is more important. So I do, so I'm quite happy with that, and I do think that this is going to end up being a bear trap right here. We do head our way back up. Of course, don't take my word for it though. My opinion is worthless. The way that you'll know that's true is if we actually get this next daily doodle, or not just this next one, but just a daily doodle to both open and close, or even just close above the white 200 simple, which is currently coming in literally right around this horizontal from our last breakdown point. So structurally and also just technically, this area right here is a massive pivot. So getting back above it, I do think confirms this is a bear trap, and then we probably just float our way upwards and always back up to the mid 200s, or sorry, like 220 to 230ish region over time, of course. Let's look at the weekly for a second as well. Weekly, ugly as fuck, really awful, man, really fucking awful. But if we do close that daily above the 200 simple, I'd give it the benefit of the doubt here. Again, in confluence with Bitcoin. I mean, we see the same chart on basically all of the altcoins, to be fair. This is Mrs. Litecoin right here. Same fucking garbage. I mean, it's really, really ugly. But, same thing as Bitcoin. I do think that we trade back up here and test around 85 or 80. What is this? Like $80, $80.50, we'll call it. If Mrs. Litecoin can get back above like 82.5 to $83, then I'd say that this is confirmed as a bear trap, and we're going to be moving our way back up towards 100, basically like $90+, $100+. The general trend would kind of remain. But it is worth mentioning, man, the weekly is fucking awful here. It's and the monthly is just as bad. The monthly is just as bad. But this is why I do put the most weight on Bitcoin, because I do believe that Bitcoin sets a pace, and then the altcoins are like allowed to kind of respond in their own like emotional way. So the more mature ones follow him a little bit more closely, or in some cases even do better. In the worst ones, don't get as much, and when Bitcoin goes down, they get hit doubly as hard. They get double fisted with the red dildos right there. So that's what I'm saying about that, man. Like I said, we say basically the same chart amongst all of the altcoins. This is Litecoin. This is Stellar right here. Stellar a little bit less so. Stellar have a fucking meltdown right there. Monero the most like Bitcoin actually. In fact, that's pretty damn good signal. Let's see, what else do we have? Ripple me nipples over here, same sort of thing, but gonna salvage itself back above the white 200 simple. I don't think that I think that this is a trap for Ripples right there. Let's see, EOS, same thing, right? Literally looks like the same chart as Litecoin. Neo, same fucking thing. Tron, same fucking thing. Bcash, same fucking thing. A little bit better though. Zcash, worse, much worse than most of them. I mean, Jesus Christ, man, it's bad. It's real bad. Anyways, let's see. Just reading some of these comments, man. These are great. How about not in the center of the screen? What are you talking about, man? What are you talking about? You're mad about the alerts. All right. Well, I think there's more things. I think there's better things in life to worry about, my friend. Anyways, back on a Bitcoin riding over here. Let's start to wrap this bitch up because I think I've spoken enough on the things that I wanted to speak about. Maybe there's. Let me just check my my indicators here. Bali, the genius behind the expected moves chart, has actually gone ahead and put the fear and greed index on the in chart format right here. So it's represented by this purple histogram right here. And you do see, and its correlation coefficient on the fear and greed index is the purple histogram. This guy right here is just the fear and greed index, as it is stock standard. You can see that we're currently caught at a 14. So we actually went down from yesterday. Bitcoin price goes up. Fear and greed index actually takes down yesterday. And more importantly, you can see that we're kind of in the more, bottomy-ish zone, if you want to call it that. What did I just see? Hey, what's up, Rainer Wolf? How you doing, man? Thanks for that, brother. Thanks for that. When can we get access to the expected moves chart? You will not get access to the expected moves chart. It's private right now. It's like, damn, man. How entitled can you get? When do we get access to? I mean, what do you mean when you get access to this? What do you mean, man? Well, first it needs to get finished. How about that? And then second, we it's up to Bali, man. It's not mine. I didn't make it. I'm just friends with him, so he allows me to use it. Anyways, we do see that the fear and greed index has a pretty damn good history of actually calling like some major pivots on the market. When it gets below the green line, that's a nice little that's a nice nice pivot point on the market. You see this area running over here, not necessarily always calling like major lows, but pretty damn good tradable lows. How much do you bench press? Actually, none, man. I haven't bench pressed in years. I fucking hate. I hate those barbells. Anyways, the point is that we actually do see a pretty damn high correlation with regards to the fear and greed index and Bitcoin price action. It's actually a pretty damn good indicator, to be fair. Funnily enough, you'd think something like this would be extremely subjective, but it accurately gets a lot of the moves. And more importantly, we are in a more buying zone, especially with regards to a general uptrend. Of which, can we go further back in time? No, we can't. Oh man, that sucks. Bali, it would be awesome if we could get this to actually populate for this area back here, so we could really compare it to the past prior cycles. Anyways, looking at this right now. We do see, we do see that it's, historically speaking, more in a buy zone, and more importantly, we've been kind of like a prolonged uptrend here, and we're kind of hitting that area. Whereas before we were in a prolonged downtrend and hitting that area and still having good results. So I'd expect that this would be a much more, a much more respected pivot just based upon that fact alone. Anyways, I do want to cover just one more thing before I wrap this bitch up on the 4 hour. I think this is worth mentioning. I want to give credit to Gritters, Gridlock from the Discord for pointing this one out. I did not catch this one myself, and it's a little bit embarrassing. But looking at the 4 hour Death Cross and Golden Cross moving averages, we got the green 50 and the purple 200. These are exponentials, by the way, in case you're trying to recreate this, and for whatever reason you're using simples, which I don't think hold all that much weight. We actually do see something very simple over here to what we saw in a past prior market cycle, and this is not the talk of fractals. Fractals would be just lining things up and say, this looks like this, so we're going to do this next. No, this is based off of actual tangible technicals, quite literally, moving averages. We can document this, we can compare it over time. That is worthwhile. And if we go back to the past prior upwards market, which we have to go all the way to the turnaround in like 2015 to 2016, which was, I believe, was it right here? Yeah, it was right here. We do see that in about June of what was it? June, yeah, or was it here? Yeah, it was in March of 2016 after we got that first major move to the upside after the bottom was put in. Sounds familiar, right? And then Bitcoin, goes through a nice sideways consolidation, actually gets the death cross right over here. It stays death cross for about 2 weeks. Sounds familiar, right? Then we get the golden cross, and Bitcoin, more or less goes sideways again, testing both the resistances and the supports. And then after that, we actually do get death cross again right on over here, but just for a small stint. And you do see that Bitcoin puts in essentially a nice little rising channel bear flag down here as well. Now, don't we? You see this action right on over here. Now, Bitcoin while bear flag obviously is more likely to break to the downside than the upside, statistically speaking, doesn't mean that it's always going to happen. And more importantly, looking at this chart right here, you do see that when it does break above the green 50 exponential moving average, or just basically like the resistance on this little smaller formation right here, as far as the flag formation goes, that's when Bitcoin actually regains its footing once again, and we get the golden cross. And while we do come back down and test around this horizontal, this was a phenomenal buy point. So going on to the present times on Bitcoin, we do see a very, very similar kind of posturing where Bitcoin is essentially making what appears to be some sort of a rising channel right here, something like this, and we have a nice horizontal coming in right around the green 50 exponential moving average, which is again right around about 10,550, 10,600ish region. And if Bitcoin does get it back above there, I would say that it's more or less I'd be looking for, at the very least to test the top side of the range, and probably Bitcoin to kind of level out here, put in another base, and probably test it again over time, and then and then get the actual trending move, because that is what I've been kind of documenting. And historically speaking, those all not always every time except for one time have amounted to at least a doubling in price or more. One time it was only a 50x in price, which not as impressive, of course. Anyways, I think I'm going to cut off the video there, but I do want to wish everyone on YouTube well. I'm going to stay on for Twitch for just a little bit more time. But with that said, wishing you well as always. Actually, let's just very briefly kind of wrap this bitch up. Yep. So more immediate resistance right around 10,550. I'm not necessarily convinced that Bitcoin breaks it from this current posturing. I think it's actually a little bit more likely that Bitcoin comes back down and tests some supports once again, maybe around like 10,000 or 10,200. And then I'd be looking for probably that to get bought back on up, and then a legitimate try to break this resistance. At which point I'd be looking for this to work its way up higher. First target's going to be about 10.9, 10.8, and then I'd be looking for the next move to bring us into like 11.2, 11.3 region. And I'll kind of just leave it at that. I'd only get bearish if Bitcoin closes the 4-hour doodle below about 9,900. Even losing 10,000 again would be kind of nasty, but I think 9,900 is a little bit more of an obvious area. Closing a 4-hour doodle below there would not be good. And if we do close a 4-hour doodle below there, then very, very likely we come down and test around 9,700, and then at that point I'd be looking for a test down to 94, 9,500. Below 94, 9,500, I get bearish essentially for like massive moves down to the weekly 21 official right around 8,800, and then perhaps even lower than that, maybe like 7,500 over time. I could get on the same side as that, but for right now, Bitcoin kind of just working its way around, and I think just more than anything frustrating people. So as long as we remain above this pivot, my bias is still like just basically sideways to slightly up, just boring bullshit for Bitcoin. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that long-term analysis. I'll be back on tomorrow with some more video and live stream analysis. Take care and see you soon.